Alrighty guys, welcome back to another episode of Airtime with Jordan. I'm your host Jordan Fasso, and today we're going to focus on the season preview for the GWS Giants. So, the orange team if you will. And the way we're going to do that is just start with a review of their season last year, go through the ins and outs they had over the offseason, get stuck into some of the, expectations and projections for this year, and then, go through some of the players I think that got to keep a keen eye on heading into the season from the Giants, and then finish off with the ladder projection and my power ranking for them going into the year. So, with all that being said, let's have a look back at last year for the Giants, and they were 15-8 on the season, and ended up fourth on the ladder. And it was a pretty good year, I would say, for the Giants overall. They at times looked like arguably the best team in the comp at times, and they were sitting outside the top 8 in round 16 and then ended up finishing fourth and being, one Joe Danaher moment of brilliance from appearing in yet another prelim. So you got a feel for the Giants in that regard, but I guess they only really have themselves to blame. And, I think they showed that their best is absolutely to be taken seriously, but they sort of just fell apart when the game was there for the taking 2 weeks in a row. Firstly against the Swans, they were up, and then against the Lions as well. They've had two sets of fourth quarter collapses, unfortunately, and they went out in straight sets in the finals. Of course, they did lose the 2 eventual grand finalists, so probably not the worst performance in hindsight. But the way it happened, the collapse was just not really. It wasn't that great from the Giants, I guess. They had, in that game against the Swans, they had a 2-goal to 6-goal last quarter, got overrun. And then in the Brisbane game the week later, they had a 1-goal to 6-goal last quarter as well. So, if you're giving up that sort of momentum in the pointy end of a final, it's probably not going to spell good news for you. So, those are the moments they won't get back, and I'm not really sure how they can prevent that going forward. I'm not sure whether it's necessarily a Sydney mindset sort of situation where they've got this scarring from grand finals. Obviously, this is different, but that's definitely not the sort of performance you want to put up late in final matches. So they have some beasts inside. They have the X Factor players. They just need to be a bit consistent. The Giants do. So hopefully they can go a step further or a couple steps further this year and get their first premiership. But let's go through the ins and outs for them. They brought in Cody Angove, Josiah Delana, Oliver Hannaford, Harry Oliver, Jack Off. I don't know about that one, but anyway, Logan Smith, Jake Stringer as well. So they were the ins, and then outs we had Isaac Cumming, Cooper Hamilton, Nick Haynes, Adam Kennedy, James Peatling, Harry Perryman, and Big Prusy as well. So he's no longer with the Giants, and losing, I guess, get stuck into the expectations, and losing Harry Perryman and James Peatling, will hurt them a lot. I think they definitely provided the Giants with a lot of the dirty work, which I don't know whether the existing sort of stars will be able to fill in necessarily. I think they're going to have to find some other guys to do that, but it's going to be interesting to see who comes in and plays those roles for those guys. And in general, I just love the amount of talent that they have everywhere. I'm very bullish on the Giants this year, and if Toby is able to rediscover his form, then I think that's going to really raise their ceiling for the year. And as I said, they lost some depth pieces though, and quality guys from their 22, especially Peatling and Perryman, like I said, and they replaced them with obviously youth through the draft, and then Jake String was the only seasoned guy they brought in really. So on paper, that's probably not ideal, but I think for me, they have a lot of guys internally who can really improve this year and take a leap. I'll touch on them probably more in the players to watch section, so stay tuned for that. But on the back of last year, I think they really need to find a bit of a point of difference in the midfield. It's been a pretty similar group for a while now, apart from the emergence of Tom Green in recent years. But your Cornelios, Cal Ward, just did the Hawks one before this, so I still have Josh Ward in my mind. That's probably a bit of a slight to Cal Ward, even though... anyway, moving on. But your Cornelios, your Cal Wards, even though he doesn't play so much in the midfield anymore. Josh Kelly's, all those guys of the world are still great players, but I wouldn't mind a bit of a shift here. I think we saw at the end of last year a bit when Toby Bedford came into the centre and provided them with some real dash and pressure for them, and the same with James Peatling at the end of the year as well. Probably more halfway through the year for him, but yeah, they both of them really provided a lot of pressure and contest around the ball, and with Peatling now being out of the picture, it might be time for that group for that to be a larger feature of their midfield group. I think putting Bedford into the centre, and I think that. In addition to Bedford, I probably want to see Brent Daniels around the ball a little bit more this year as well. I don't necessarily expect him to feature as much due to how good he is in that high half forward role that him and Dylan Moore have become exceptional at. They're probably the two benchmarks in that position in the competition, and we saw Brent Daniels in the finals against Brisbane how much he can turn the momentum of a game when he's up and around the ball, and just his cleanliness and his general pace around the ball and get the Giants moving in the right direction. So I think that he's definitely someone that they can look to split a bit more time evenly through the midfield. And sort of on the back of that, I think that he provides that sort of change of pace, and I think the Giants midfield at times has been guilty of having that sort of one-pace nature about it. All those guys aren't exactly the craziest athletes by foot, the ones that I mentioned before that are sort of the core midfielders over the past few years. So I think that although that didn't necessarily cost them because they are such a good midfield in their own right, but it's really just a better version of the Saints midfield, who get criticised at times for being like that sort of one-pace midfield. Your Jack Steeles, your Marcus Windhagers, those Seb Ross when he was there, that sort of pace midfield. And the Giants, I'm not putting them in that same category, but I'm just sort of highlighting the fact that I think against some of the elite teams who have some of those breakaway speed midfielders, they can, with the addition of contested balls that obviously the Giants do have, they just sort of don't quite match up in that regard against those elite sort of teams. So I think unfortunately for them, we're grading them at a pretty high bar. They did unfortunately get exposed by both Sydney and Brisbane, who of course are those elite midfields that I'm sort of talking about. So probably unfortunately it's probably a bit of an unfair comparison, but that's who we're comparing them to at the when it comes to finals time anyway. So that's probably enough about the midfield and my thoughts there. I think I'll get into the addition of Jake Stringer up forward. I think it's going to be pretty interesting for them. They were already very stacked up there, and hopefully Toby gets back to his best after a down year, which I sort of touched on before. But and hopefully Jesse Hogan is able to repeat his form from last year, being the best forward in the comp, the best key forward in the comp. Brent Daniels, does his thing. Darcy Jones becomes a regular 22 guy, able to play each week, and Aaron Cadman proves why he was taken first overall, and the rest of the mids and forwards sort of fill in the gaps. I really like their forward line quite a bit, and that's why I really like the Stringer play from the Giants. It costs them nothing. They have an awesome forward line as it stands, so for him to sort of be the icing on the cake is actually the best role for Jake Stringer, I think, is the pressure isn't on him to if it doesn't work necessarily, and I don't think that Adam Kingsley has to worry about sending him to the twos if he's not fitting in or is just not in form. I don't think you have that same pressure as him being like that, I don't know, number one forward that he has been at Essendon. I think he probably has been pretty sort of miscast as that number one forward at Essendon. It hasn't necessarily been fair on Stringer himself, and I think that I think just it's just worth a roll of the dice from the Giants. Best case, he's has a great year, and people know he's a bit of an enigma, Jake Stringer. But at times he can be an absolute game changer, and I think that when you're adding him to a forward line as stacked as theirs, as I said, the floor on that forward line is so high. Adding him is just gonna put it through the roof, or they're still gonna be awesome even if he's not any good. So I think. I think that it's just a win-win for them. There's no way that they can really lose on that deal. It's just worth the roll of the dice at the end of the day for mine. And the fact that they have been able to recuperate value on guys like Jesse Hogan away from the spotlight of the AFL media up at Sydney, I think it probably spells a good omen, I guess, that Jake Stringers might have a solid year as well. And as I said, if I'm wrong, who cares? They're still so good up there anyway. And then for their back half, I'm really excited about the back line, and I think that this is actually probably their strongest part of the ground, regardless of, despite the fact of how good their forward line is. Sam Taylor, I think, is probably the best defender in the league at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. I think maybe Wiedering has an argument, Harris Andrews has an argument, but I think Sam Taylor right now is just out and out the best player down back. He just shuts everyone down. He knows when to come off his man, and generally just has this competitive spirit that not many really match in the league. And I think people sort of forget he missed a fair bit of time last year with that horrific concussion against the Saints. So I would hope his season is a little bit less interrupted and he can get more of a consistent go at it. And it didn't really take him long to find his form again. But if he's able to show for a longer stretch why I've known him the number one defender in the comp, then I think he's just that important and that good that he's going to prove everyone why that's the case. So yeah, although he is a capable one-man defence, I think that he doesn't necessarily need to be, because they've got other great complementary players down there, and Jack Buckley is the I guess his counterpart, his other key defender down there. He's a good complementary tall defender, someone who isn't afraid to take the game on and has some serious skills as well by foot for a big guy. And he's not necessarily the biggest key defender, but I think that bodes well for them when you've got Sam Taylor, who can take on literally anyone, and then you can sort of mix and match who Jack Buckley focuses on for the week. And Harry Himmelberg as well looks like he's found a home down back. It gives them that third tall option in case they're playing a Bulldogs type of forward line, and but he's also very effective as an interceptor, and he's a great kick too. So like that again, you got like three guys already that have good size and work really well together. I think they have a lot of skills that don't necessarily just work well together. They got a good chemistry down there. And that's before I even touch on Connor Ryden, who really showed last year what a defensive menace he is. I think he was the best, probably the best small defender in the comp last year. Across all players who contested at least 12 one-on-ones last year and played a minimum of 10 games, he had the fifth best winning rate of winning those defensive one-on-ones across the whole competition. And that is against Sam Taylor for what it's worth. So, I just trust him to... And I think he was actually the top small defender as well in that statistic as well. So he's shutting everyone down, and I just trust him to take any small or medium sized forward. I trust all their guys down back, and I really don't think they're going to be a problem. And they are going to be a problem. And speaking of that, Lockie Whitfield, he's the other one down back who we know how great he is by foot and launching their attacks, and hopefully for the Giants' sake that no one tags him again this year. So I think that that's sort of a hint to opposition teams that he's the bloke who should be going after to stop their sort of transition game. And they just have such a good balance of stoppers, playmakers, and ball users down back, and I think that they're definitely primed to have like a top three sort of defense in the league this year, the Giants. So very, very bullish on their defence this year, and I think their forward line is primed for an exciting year as well. But I guess all this sort of does hinge on the midfield to a degree, or at least the forward line part. Briggs is a solid ruck, especially with his follow-up work, but his shoulders sort of are worrying me a little bit, and I wonder if he gets through a season without any of those issues. And if the midfield is able to stack to sort of take a leap up from where it was last year, and compete with some of the the Sydneys and Brisbanes of the world. I think Tom Green's going to have a bit of an interrupted start to the season, which isn't ideal. They can probably tread water for a little bit with some of the guys they have already, the seasoned vets, Canelio, Josh Kelly's and stuff, like I said. But I think that they're sort of limited by the midfield. If they're able to find that right blend of contests from guys like Tom Green and stuff, and then be able to find some speed with Toby Bedford potentially, and a bit of class if Brent Daniels goes through there as well, then I think that'll go a long way in helping them. I don't necessarily think that they need to have that Sydney style midfield where they're kicking goals for you or anything. I think you've just got to win enough of the contest and not give up easy ones going the other way, even though the defence can probably hold up. But the more opportunities and clean opportunities they give their forward line, who are, as I said, very, very dangerous, they're going to be, in better nick for it, I think. So pretty excited for that, if that does eventuate from the Giants side. And then just get into some of the players to watch for the Giants, and I'll start off with Lockie Ash. I think, everyone sort of, I think, generally knows about Lockie Ash, but I think he's already great. But not having Harry Perriman anymore sort of makes me think that he's going to have an even bigger and more important role to play this year. He's not. Sorry, I probably should have touched on him when we were talking about the guys down back, but yeah, he is great by foot. He's a really good defender as well, and he potentially could even come into the midfield at times. So yeah, I'm excited to see what role he plays this year now that Harry Perriman's no longer there. Another guy that I think is on the forefront of everyone's mind and potentially going to have his breakout campaign is Aaron Cadman. He showed a lot of signs last year of he's sort of coming along nicely, and I think the flashes we saw from him were pretty exciting. And coming into year 3, we can probably expect bigger things from the former first overall pick. And everyone sort of knows that tools take a bit longer to develop and pick up the speed of the game, and I've really liked the signs that he showed last year. I think he has a chance to really be one of the best key forwards in the next generation. Alongside the likes of Sam Darcy, that's the sort of category that I would hold him in. Maybe not quite that high, and I just think that in general the hype isn't always around the Giants, so people probably don't see the glimpses as much. But I certainly noticed his improvement last year, and I think he's very, very capable of taking a leap this year, and even he doesn't have to be the absolute number one key forward because they have a guy named Jesse Hogan, but if he's able to complement Jesse Hogan, then this forward line is just going to go bonkers, I think. So, and another guy down there that I will touch on is Darcy Jones. He's a very talented youngster. Everyone's loves the helmet and everything that he wears, but I think with Brent Daniels potentially being around the ball a bit more, it could open up a slightly bigger role for Darcy Jones up forward, next to the other small forwards that they have up there. So yeah, he's another one to watch for me. I think that people are pretty excited by him in general, but yeah, if Brent Daniels is around the ball a bit more than that, and he's able to fill that void, he could be primed for a pretty big year too. And then lastly, on the players to watch, the bloke who just knocked back the biggest contract of all time in Finn Callahan. Poor Sainers can't get anyone to come down there, but I think that, he knocked back this massive offer to stay, and I think this guy will back up the off-season hoopla a little bit. He had some amazing moments and games last year, but I think he puts together his most complete and consistent season in 2025. His running ability at his size is genuinely frightening. I think if he shifts more into the inside mid role, then and that's what I think everyone's sort of expecting and hoping for this year, and he's able to perform in that role, then I don't think it's crazy to think that he could be their best midfielder by season's end. Obviously, there's a bloke named Tom Green in there, but I really do think that Finn Callahan has the potential to be their best player and best midfielder. So I think this could be a season where he's well on his way to his All-Australian, first All-Australian nod. So yeah, definitely want to be keeping an eye on Finn Callahan this year. And then get stuck into just where I expect them to be on the ladder. So obviously, based on what I'm saying, you guys probably predict that I'm pretty high in the Giants. And for me, I think, I've power ranked them. I've got them second in my power rankings heading into the year. And after going through the fixture, I've got them finishing second on the ladder as well. So no real difference there. I think that they're going to be very, very hard to beat. Very good team at home as well, and I think it's just going to come down to that midfield for them. Their forwards and backs are just rock solid, and whether Briggs can make it through a full season this year without his shoulders sort of giving him any trouble, I think is going to be key. And hopefully their midfield can just take another leap. And I think Finn Callahan's going to have a big role to play in that, like I just said. So all aboard the Giants train this year. The what do they call it? The Orange Tsunami. So keen to see where they take off, and they've got the Pies in the opening round on Sunday, I think it is. So excited to see that. Alrighty, stay tuned for the remainder of these as we gear up for round 1.